My late mom left everything to my sister and I didn't mind, until she kicked me out and tossed all mom's belongings, saying glad that Crook is dead. A week later, she called me crying after realizing what she'd given away. Funny how fast karma works. It was a gut punch, a total betrayal that still makes my blood boil. My late mom left everything to my sister Michelle and I was okay with it. Really I was. But then just a week after mom passed, Michelle kicked me out of the house and even worse, trashed all of mom's cherished belongings. It felt like she was erasing our mother, erasing us. And then the universe delivered a swift, brutal dose of karma. Just days later, Michelle called me, sobbing, realizing she'd given away something irreplaceable. Oh, the sweet irony. My mom had 3 kids. My twin sister Michelle and me were 26, and our little brother Dennis. Michelle and I are fraternal twins, and growing up with her was difficult. I was always treated differently, not just because I looked different from her but because I looked so different from mom. Michelle, though? She was mom's spitting image, and with mom being sick for years, it felt like Michelle was her only child, constantly being groomed to be a mini version of her. For years I craved mom's attention, trying everything, even imitating their look. It only led to them making fun of me. Eventually I gave up. I accepted I'd never be important to them. But then there was Dennis. He adored me just as I was, and that made all the difference. My biological parents married young. A bit of a rushed affair since mom was already pregnant. She'd been a model, but that ended with us. We lost dad in an accident when we were little. Mom went back to work, leaving us with her mom, and that's how she met our stepdad. He came into our lives 3 years after dad passed. Our stepdad was genuinely kind. He's the only father I really remember, and honestly he improved our family dynamic. He always tried to include me, even occasionally telling mom to be better to me. Sometimes it actually worked. But the best thing he ever did for me? He and mom gave me Dennis. He's 12 years younger, but he's the absolute joy of my life. I truly don't know how I would have gotten through everything without him. He was so attached to me, and he's a huge part of why I even bothered to stay in touch with mom and Michelle all these years. A few years ago, our stepdad passed from cardiac arrest. He was only in his late 50s, but it wasn't a shock. He'd battled heart problems for years. Then just months later, mom called us both with devastating news. Stomach cancer. She underwent treatment for a couple of years, but we lost her about 6 weeks ago. After her diagnosis, everyone thought Michelle and I both moved back home to be with her. But that wasn't the full truth. Mom only wanted Michelle. I was there because she needed someone to look after Dennis. She didn't want him removed from her custody since she was medically unfit. I suggested taking Dennis home with me and visiting on weekends, anything to avoid living full-time with mom and Michelle. It sounded like a nightmare. But mom was firm. We knew she wasn't going to make it, and it was hard to say no. Even Dennis didn't want to leave. He was a teenager used to his life, already dealing with the trauma of losing his mom. Taking him away from everything he knew just didn't feel right. So for years it was the 4 of us in that house. When mom finally passed, I was sad and Dennis was heartbroken. He might not have liked how mom treated me, but she always treated him well, and he was attached to her. We honestly expected Michelle to be completely shattered. What shocked us, though, was Michelle's reaction, or lack thereof. She seemed completely unaffected, going about her life as if nothing had happened. Within days, she seemed happier than ever. About a week after mom's passing, her lawyer and the will's executor told us everything. Mom left pretty much everything to Michelle. When our stepdad passed, his money and assets went to mom since his family wasn't interested. She'd sold his assets, and all that money was now in a trust for Dennis, accessible when he turned 18. All I got was mom's wedding ring from her first marriage to dad. It wasn't worth much financially, a hasty wedding when they were young, but for me it was enough. I wasn't surprised Michelle got everything. Mom was predictable. I was a little jealous, sure, but I have a stable job, so I tried not to let it get to me. But while I had no reaction to getting practically nothing, Michelle actually rolled her eyes when the lawyer told her she'd inherited everything, including a bunch of letters. Even the lawyer seemed taken aback. I couldn't hold back. After the lawyer left, I finally confronted her about her weird behavior. I wasn't rude, just polite. She explained she tried to be sad when mom died, but she just couldn't. All her life she had hated mom. That hit me like a ton of bricks. Michelle, of all people, hated our mother? She then revealed how Mom had constantly pressured her to be exactly like her, completely disregarding what Michelle wanted. From childhood, Mom monitored her weight, forced her to dress a certain way, did her makeup how she liked, always trying to make Michelle a carbon copy of herself. Michelle said she'd never been able to be herself for a second because she'd seen how Mom treated me and didn't want to get on her bad side. She knew staying on Mom's good side would pay off. Mom had made good money. After remarrying, she initially quit her job, but then she and our stepdad decided she'd go back to work to help with 3 kids. Instead of a conventional job, Mom became a life coach. Basically, she'd tell rich people obvious things they could have found on Google. It was a total scam, but it was her friend's business, and rich people love throwing money at random stuff. The business boomed and Mom became a partner. She did that until her diagnosis, still earning passive income. At her passing, I think she was richer than our stepdad had been. So yes, a lot of money went to Michelle. Hearing Michelle talk about Mom like this, about the immense pressure she was under, made me realize it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for her either. It was a rare, raw moment of vulnerability, showing me how difficult it had been for her to constantly suck up to Mom and live by her rules, even as an adult. After college, Michelle wanted to open her own restaurant, but Mom forced her into modeling, probably to live out her own dreams through Michelle. Michelle couldn't say no. For years she'd been swamped, either auditioning or working her day job trying to save money. But now, with the inheritance, she could finally invest in her business and stop trying to be her mother's ideal daughter. After she finished, I actually hugged her. We'd never been close, but I thought maybe now we could actually be friends. Instead, a couple of days later, she told me she wanted Dennis and me to vacate the house. She was moving her boyfriend and business partner in, and it would be awkward with us there. I was happy to leave. I wanted my own space. The problem was Dennis. He didn't want to leave, and even if I did, I needed time. I'd ended my apartment lease and had to find a new place. I tried to explain. Dennis was almost out of high school. She could have the house to herself in a few years. If she really wanted her boyfriend there, maybe she could rent an apartment with him. She had plenty of money now. I didn't think I was being unreasonable. This wasn't about me wanting the house. I just wanted some stability for Dennis. Moving out of his childhood home suddenly after losing his mother would be devastating for him. She knew it too. But instead of considering my suggestion, she just said she didn't care. She wanted us out no matter what. The house was hers and she decided who stayed. It was insulting. Even though she'd given us until the end of the week, I decided we'd leave the very next day. Dennis came with me without a word. I'd explained everything, not hiding Michelle's cruel words, so he'd know exactly who she was. I'd thought we might bond after her confession, after she showed a little vulnerability. But then she kicked us out and I learned my lesson. After we left, I cut all contact. There was no need anymore. Dennis was with me, and while he wasn't happy, he'd made his peace with it. It had been almost a week of no contact. But yesterday she called. Hysterical. Crying her eyes out. Apparently, she'd given away something incredibly important, and now needed my help to get it back. And that's why I'm so confused about what to do. The thing she'd given away was Mom's jewelry box. It was full of incredibly expensive pieces Mom had bought over the years, things she wore occasionally, so they were kept in the house, not a bank vault. She kept them in this ugly wooden box in her closet, probably so no one would ever suspect its contents. And I guess that's exactly why Michelle wasn't mindful when she just tossed out Mom's belongings, clearing the biggest room for her boyfriend. Now she'd realized her careless mistake. To make things worse, she'd been stupid enough to tell the friend who received the box what it contained, and now her friend was refusing to return it. I found it baffling that she was calling me and not a lawyer. As far as I was concerned, she could just take this friend to court. The will would easily prove ownership. So I told her to talk to a lawyer. That's when she told me the real kicker. She couldn't take it to court because this friend was her boyfriend's sister. And her boyfriend had made it crystal clear. If she tried anything to get the jewelry back, he'd dump her immediately, and their business partnership would be over. Forever. She couldn't even tell anyone else, because if her boyfriend found out she was trying to ruin his family's reputation, he'd leave. With nowhere else to turn, she came begging to me. She'd been so incredibly stupid and selfish throughout this whole thing. I told her not to call me again, and then I blocked her. But now, I feel a little bad. Am I wrong for refusing to help her get back Mom's jewelry that she carelessly gave away? Update 1. Okay, so I'm not helping Michelle. This is her problem with her boyfriend and his sister, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me. There's nothing for me to gain by getting involved unnecessarily, and I really don't want to waste my time and energy on this. If she's not strong enough to stand up to her boyfriend and lets him boss her around, that's hardly my problem. Besides, I still can't forget how rude and selfish she's been the past few weeks, so I don't feel the need to help her out anyway. It's been over 4 days since she tried to contact me. After I blocked her, it took her a while, but last night she sent me a really long email to my work address. She probably found it online. The first half was just her apologizing for being so selfish. She claimed she was just tired of putting her dreams and plans on hold for her family, because that's all she'd done her whole life because of Mom. Now that Mom's gone, she couldn't wait to live life her way, which is why she wanted Dennis and me out as soon as possible. She was only now realizing how selfish she'd been, and was truly sorry. After all the apologies, she then mentioned that since Mom's estate was still in probate, she was scared of the legal repercussions of giving away the jewelry. She hadn't even had the courage to speak to Mom's lawyer about it yet because she was afraid of getting into trouble. Apparently, she'd done some internet research and thinks she has reason to be scared. But honestly, I still think if she just speaks to the lawyer and gets the jewelry back, everything will be solved. I've never dealt with the law myself, but I have this thing called common sense and I like to use it. I wish she would too. I don't understand why she's still reaching out to me. I don't know her boyfriend or his sister, so what does she expect me to do? The entire email was just her whining about how difficult the situation was for her, and how she didn't want to lose anyone. For someone who literally kicked her siblings out of her house to move her boyfriend in, she seems pretty weak and stupid now. I also don't understand how her boyfriend is investing in her business, but can't afford to buy his sister jewelry, and has to resort to stealing. Because technically I would call it stealing. Michelle made it clear she didn't think there was anything significant in that box, which is why she gave it away in a hurry. Any decent person with half a brain would return that box when asked, especially if they realized it contained valuable jewelry that wasn't theirs. Sure, they could keep it, but then they'd be opening themselves up to legal consequences. Decent people with common sense just don't do something like this. And when it's so obvious that her boyfriend's sister isn't a good person, and neither is he since he's defending her and threatening to break up with Michelle, she should dump these people and take them to court. Instead, she's choosing to waste her time writing stupid emails to me instead of speaking to the lawyer and fixing the problem. I have no sympathy for her. I just hope she doesn't contact me again because I'm truly annoyed. If she does reach out again, I might just contact the lawyer myself and solve this problem for her. Update 2. So somehow Michelle found out where I was staying with my friend. I don't know how, but today she showed up. I opened the door and there she was apologizing. It was awkward because Dennis was out, and my friend and I were chatting in the living room. It was embarrassing. This wasn't even my house, and I didn't want her throwing a tantrum. I asked her to step outside with me so we could talk. She said she pulled a lot of strings to find me and just needed a chance to speak. Don't ask me what she meant by that. I asked and she wouldn't say. Anyway, she told me she meant every word of her apology, that she truly was sorry for how I'd been treated. Then she said she was ready to prove it. That caught my attention. I asked her how she planned on doing that. She said if I helped her get the jewelry back, she would split the inheritance with me. That would be a huge help. I thought about it for a couple of minutes. She had come into a lot of money, and if she actually split it after probate, I'd be set for months. So after some thought, I agreed. But I told her it would only happen if we spoke to a lawyer and had a written agreement drawn up. I didn't trust her. Surprisingly, she accepted. She said she'd given me enough reasons not to trust her, and totally understood where I was coming from. I thought that was respectable. Now all she wants me to do is speak to her boyfriend and his sister for her. That's literally all I have to do. She's been trying to work up the courage to stand up to them but hasn't been able to. I also found out from her that her boyfriend isn't even financing the business. So it actually makes sense why his sister decided to keep the jewelry. They're obviously not rich. I had just assumed he was investing because Michelle kept talking about his investment, but it turns out that was just his time. And even that, he's only going to start contributing after she sets up the business. So far, he hasn't contributed anything. Not even the time he promised. She'll still be the only one putting money into it. I personally thought it was an incredibly stupid idea, and I told her so to her face. She didn't say anything after that, but I hope she takes it seriously and leaves him. Until then, I'm waiting for her to come back with the paperwork so we can sign it. Then I guess I'll have to deal with her boyfriend and his sister. I can't even imagine them being very scary because I literally cannot think of a single reason why she needs me to speak to them and can't do it herself. And no, I don't think anything fishy is going on. I think she's telling me the truth. She's just scared of the emotional aspect of it and doesn't want to be the bad guy to them. It's as simple as that. Update 3. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and everything has finally worked out. A couple of days after she spoke to me, Michelle showed up again with the signed documents. Once I knew for a fact she couldn't back out, I went with her to speak to her boyfriend. And after that conversation, I finally understood why she didn't want to do it on her own. I had stalked him and his sister on social media, found nothing shady, and just assumed there was nothing going on. And there really wasn't. But what was going on with him, nobody would ever speak about on social media. As soon as I told him I was there to speak on Michelle's behalf about the jewelry, he immediately started freaking out. And I don't mean funny freaking out. He started screaming, shouting, and cursing at us. Most of it was directed at Michelle, who just stood in a corner crying. He cursed at her like crazy. The words and names he used for her were not only derogatory but disgusting. I couldn't believe an educated man like him was acting like this. He accused her of trying to ruin his family's reputation. When I tried to tell him that he and his sister were responsible for their own actions, he started throwing things around and cursing at me too. He was acting like a total animal. At a certain point I started losing my temper too, and we got into a heated argument. I was pretty sure if I pushed it further, he would have turned it into a physical brawl. I could actually see him trying to restrain himself, but I don't think it was because I was a woman. I think it was just because he knew I wasn't Michelle, and if he did anything to me, I'd immediately call the cops and he'd be screwed. After arguing with me for a while and screaming some more, he finally called his sister to get the box. While we waited, he had a lot to say about us, our upbringing, our family. He constantly kept up a stream of horrible things about Michelle while she just kept crying in the corner. I actually started feeling bad for her. If this is what she had to deal with regularly, I could understand why she needed my help. Anyway, after a while, his sister finally showed up and begrudgingly, they handed the box over to Michelle. I could see they weren't willing to give it up, but they had to. Because even though Michelle was scared of them, I wasn't. After the handover, Michelle's boyfriend stormed out of the house, cursing at her and telling her he never wanted to see her again because of what she'd done. She tried to talk to him, to stop him from leaving, but he just pushed her aside and left. Then she totally broke down. Even though I'd been mad at her for a long time, I started feeling bad. I sat with her and consoled her as best I could, telling her everything would be fine. She apologized to me for everything she'd put me through. Since then, we've managed to stay on good terms. True to her word, she's told me that as soon as she receives the inheritance, she's going to split it with me, and we're actually trying to build a stronger relationship now. Dennis and I have also moved out of my friend's apartment. Michelle has invited us back to stay with her, but I think a few weeks apart will do us all some good right now. I just want to feel things out and see how they go.